Welcome to Body Energetics podcast number 34. I'm your host, Lauren Saracione, and I'm really excited to share with you today some of the basics of how your body is manifesting life around you with your thoughts, with your feelings, and with your actions. Now, I'm really excited to share this with you because I have been going through it. I have been focusing so much energy into figuring out how can I make the intangible of energetics tangible through diet, our relationship with food, our body image, and exercise. And in this process of trying to figure this out in the last 2 years of how do I take something that is invisible and put it on Instagram and put it on a podcast to make it make sense to help people create change within their experience of their body with health and their aesthetic transformation, but also to see how what we're doing with our body, with the self-care habits, is actually a parallel to how our life is manifesting around us. So with this very intense focus that I've kind of been driving myself crazy with, I realized that sharing with everybody the whole aspect of it. You may have heard me talk about the wheel of life, especially when I was on my anti-inflammatory diet with doing macro tracking for reverse cut, which basically meant I had to be super focused with strategy at all times. And I had a teeny tiny little list to choose from because the big voluminous dieting foods like lettuce and spinach and asparagus and seafood were off limits for me. Those actually caused inflammation in my lower GI tract. So to be on a diet, it was exponentially hard because there wasn't a big variety of food to do the dieting with. There wasn't a lot of voluminous food that I can pick from to kind of get the hunger pangs away. So I learned a lot about attachment trauma when I was doing that very strict protocol. And when I looked at the attachment trauma, so in other words, things that happen to us when our 0 to 3 years of age that cause us to be anxiously or avoidantly insecurely attached, right? We know this in relationships that if we're anxious, we kind of are always anticipating the person's going to leave or that they're cheating, and we get really clingy and needy, but we're also controlling and manipulative. And then if we're avoidant, we're like, hey, let's make sure that we leave first before they break our heart. And then let's maybe create some problems. Let's push the person away. Let's push some buttons, get them to break up with us first. That's the insecure attachment style in a very small nutshell. So when I was looking at this, when I was understanding this, I was like, okay, wait. I don't like that I have to track the macros if I'm going to get the body of my dreams. I don't like that I have to be on this super strict diet. Where else are all of these I don't like emotions? So I would literally go through my chart with human design and with my natal chart. I would take a look even at what the current transits were. And I would also look at the wheel of life to be like, where else is this negative emotion showing up? Because if I can work on this negative emotion in another area of life that I don't have an attachment to, right? Because I'm attached to the dream body goal and I'm making the tools mean something about me. If I go work on the emotion in another area of life that I don't have an attachment to, then when it comes to the food and comes to the body image and comes to the sticking with the strategy, I'm going to have an easier time because the energy isn't as restrictive. There isn't as much negative energetic pull causing me resistance and causing me sabotage. So when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, we can use our food, our diet strategy, our 0 to 3 experiences, the wheel of life, and our natal chart to stop resisting the habits that we need to do to reach our goals and stop the sabotage. So I was sharing that with people, sharing it. I hired the best of the best, Melanie Ann Layer and Stephanie Ann Hewson, spent thousands, tens of thousands of dollars in their containers to learn how to take something intangible and put it into the tangible with the meaning that this is the life experience is a spiritual rite of passage. There is so much beyond Earth. There is so much beyond this solar system, this Milky Way, this multiverse. There is so much beyond that we don't even have information about except for really abstract pictures from space. There is so much more beyond what our religious texts have said, stuff that predated all of these ancient scriptures that let us know that we are divine and we are connected to source. We are all created in the image of God. There is no hierarchy. There is so much more beyond this body. So I've been investing heavily. And what I recently came to realize like 2 to 3 weeks ago was that I built my first business, Pilates Barbell Club, off personal power, off intuition, off conviction, off a deep knowing in my body that there was a need in the industry for women to have a workout where they could do strength training because their metabolism increases. Our golden years are going to be much easier to deal with in a strong body that's been lifting weights for decades. And that our body was not based on image. It wasn't based on how much we weighed or what we looked like. It was about what we could do. And then that meant that eating was not about eating as little as possible, to weigh as little as possible, to fit into the skinny chic that was popular at the time. And the eating became, how can I lift? How can I have the best workout performance? Because I know if I work out really well, I'm going to build the muscle. I'm going to have that strength in metabolism. I'm going to have strength in bones. I'm going to set myself up for my later years while I'm fit now in my youth. That flip of the mindset allowed women to create a bigger meaning and context around showing up to the gym to do their workout and around what they were eating. There wasn't so much of this like angst of like, I have to do this to look a certain way to get the approval, to feel good about myself. No, it was about being athletic and being strong and being independent. Well, my gym closed after 2 years. I wasn't able to handle it all. I was married. I had 2 stepkids. One of my childhood friends was murdered. Relationships fell apart. It was just like it was like a domino effect of everything just coming out from underneath me. And after the gym closed, I made a podcast. You may have heard of it. This might be why you're here, actually, called Love is a Verb podcast. And the reason why that came about was because I had an allergic reaction to zinc, just pure zinc as sunscreen. And I was in the trailer and it was like over 115 degrees heat. And so just stepping outside on this camping trip that I had this allergic reaction to burned my face. So I had to stay in the air conditioning for a few days. And I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw a post of the earth and it was cracked. And it said, before you can love and heal the world, you must love and heal yourself. And Pilates Barbell Club was something that I had the idea of while I was in a 6-month period after being diagnosed with PTSD, where I was retraining myself to eat whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. I committed to 3 days a week of strength training. I worked as little as possible. I had Post-its of mantras everywhere. I was doing cognitive behavioral therapy, but I did not have God. I did not have feelings. I was anti-God and anti-feelings because to me, they were both weak. So I built Pilates Barbell Club off of being flexible and strong in mind and body. No heart, no energetics. So cut to the gym closing, and I'm scrolling through Instagram and I see this. And at the time, I was in a personal development program. I was meditating, visualizing my love coming out of my body, circling around the world, making a connection on the other side of the globe. Once it connected on the other side, it all came back to me. Money, relationships, fun experiences, impact, influence, all positive things, all my own love coming back to me. So when I see this podcast or this little post on Instagram, I was like, that's the missing factor. I have not loved myself this entire time. So I thought, okay, I listened to podcasts at the time. I listened to them religiously. I had over an hour-long commute. So I was listening to either A Course in Miracles, The Master Key Secret, I think is what it's called. It's about manifestation. And I was listening to business podcasts, specifically Entrepreneur on Fire, where it was about people who had rock bottom moments within their business, lost it all, and then were able to regenerate themselves with a new business. So I was like in the zone, right? So when I see this post on Instagram, when I'm in the trailer with this allergic reaction, my face was all puffy. It gets so painful. I was like, and I'm having this meditation of my love circling around the world. I was like, you're going to podcast. You're going to podcast love as a verb. And I had that idea. And now, mind you, my business just closed, so I didn't have money. When I got home from that camping trip, there was a credit card application. I hadn't been paying on credit cards because of the financial ruin. So when the credit card application showed up, I was like, well, this is interesting. This is how I'm going to pay for the podcasting course. So I opened up the credit card, put the podcast on that credit card, and started podcasting. The podcast was interviewing people from around the world about the moment they learned loving themselves was essential to life and how they are the change they wish to see in the world. It was built again on personal power, conviction, intuition. I was doing podcasting every day. I was doing interviews sometimes at 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning. I was interviewing people from around the world. I think we had like 500 episodes. I still have them on my external hard drive. And then I stopped doing the podcast like in 2020, 2021. Now I'm sharing this with you because what I realized just a couple weeks ago is that when I followed my gut, my intuition, when I was connected to my personal power with a deep knowing that I had a solution for a problem that was in the collective that the only I could fulfill, I did it. I just did it. I didn't have strategies. I didn't have like a formal business support when I started. As I got deeper into my gym and as I got deeper into the podcast, that's when the pressure came on. That's when the insecurities of my unconscious from attachment trauma in the 0 to 3 started to activate. Because here I was holding the identity of a powerful soul in a human body fulfilling the mission. That's an identity that is very different than the identity that I created in my 0 to 3 when there were severe ruptures within my upbringing in the households and the relationships with my caregivers. Total contrast. So now looking back, I'm like, wow, instead of the wheel of life, I'm going to help women business owners who have that fire in their heart to serve the collective, to be the change they wish to see in the world, and that either want to learn energy and how to manifest using their body. They could have body problems like I did with having a psychosomatic injury in my neck, the chronic pain that I had after, the inflammation in my gut, the what else did I go through? Binge eating, the healing of the binge eating that set me on this path 14 years ago. Any woman who has a business that now it's like we're getting wobbly. Now the doubts are coming in. Now we're not sure if we can do it. Now we're reaching for every strategy and every multi-million-dollar coach on the internet that's going to be the missing key to us finally making that quote unquote quantum leap. That we get attached to the clients. And if a client leaves, especially if they leave under not great conditions, we lose our power. We look at the experience with a client leaving for any type of reason as we're not good enough. Because if we were good enough and if we were really doing the thing we were here to be, nobody would ever leave our containers. Or that we get hung up on the money and we start making short-term decisions based on a short-term number, that we don't want to dip our monthly income. And we lose sight of the power, the intuition, the gut, the soul mission that we started with before there was a big contrast between who we were in that 0 to 3 and who we are as the soul being embodied through the human. So now that I'm seeing this clear that because I've already had these experiences with a brick and mortar business and a podcast that was listened to in 79% of the world's countries, I made the impact, right? If we're after the money to say, hey, I had enough money to open a brick and mortar business with all of that overhead, plus pay for family living expenses. That was a lot of money that I created. I even had somebody working for me. And then the reach of the podcast, 79% of the world's countries. Like, do you hear this? Like, that's impact. That's making a difference. And so, what I want to share with you is how we can really look at the business to where the insecure attachment styles are showing up in correlation with how we are eating, how we are perceiving our body, and how we are exercising. Because when we can create a powerful meaning for our own self-care, that means that we have to get securely attached to ourselves, our power, our intuition. When we are securely attached to our power, ourselves, our intuition, it does not mean that bad things are not going to happen. It does not mean that we're never going to have sad emotion. It does not mean that we're going to not make mistakes. It means that we know no matter what, we got our own back. It means that whatever feeling we're having, whatever emotional experience we are having, we validate it. We allow ourselves to let it make sense. We are able to parent ourselves in any type of trigger to be like, okay, wait, let me do a little check-in on what's going on in the world right now, in my business, with my clients, with my family, with my partner, with my kids, with my parents, with my body, where I am in my cycle. Okay, it makes sense. I'm feeling this way. Yeah. And like, what actually am I feeling right now? Makes sense. And every time that we validate our emotion, we stay in the present moment so we can stay connected to our power instead of spinning out and going on the hamster wheel or doing whatever distractions that we do, including binge eating. I'm at home. You can hear the dogs probably. Or if we start to like really throw ourselves into work and just work and work and work and work and work to distract ourselves from the feeling. That's what I did when I had my gym. Almost work is the place that I go to distract myself. But we also could say, like my mom says, that's just focusing energy. You know how to focus energy and be productive, even though you feel like shit. That's the better way to look at it. My point being is that when we can check in, when we are in a triggered state and validate our emotions, we're staying in the present moment now. But the other thing that happens, because we're talking about energy and we're talking about the unconscious, not the subconscious, the unconscious. When we validate our now present emotions, we can connect with pieces of our unconscious from that 0 to 3 that are similar. So if we are in a triggered state and we validate of like why it makes sense for current conditions for us to feel a certain way, but then we also just stay there with the feelings for a little bit. I'm talking like 30 seconds. And we're like, what does this remind me of? What other times have I felt this way? How old do I feel? How is this just like when? How is this just like me? And when we ask these open-ended questions, especially what does this remind me of? How old do I feel? When have I felt this before? We're able to access the unconscious identity. Now, the unconscious identity is so important because the unconscious of the 0 to 3, if we look at Dr. John Sarno's The Divided Mind, this is where, if we're in that 0 to 3, inner child primitive is what he calls it, this is where deep-seated anger gets stored. Because on a primal level, we are angry about attachment needs not being met. And the attachment needs are our nervous system calibrating to our parents. And the calibration is to let us know physically if we're safe or not. So before modern times, on a primal level, on an animalistic level, this means that if mom or dad's nervous system was in a dysregulated fear state, that meant we would go into that because there is danger lurking around the corner. But since we don't really have physical danger, especially in a Western world, we have perceived danger, mindset, limiting beliefs, fears. I'm not enough. I'm too much. People won't like me. If I'm my true self, people will leave. I'll be judged, ridiculed, neglected, rejected. So if our parents are having this dysregulated nervous system out of perceived fear, and we are calibrating to them, therefore we are not getting emotional needs met. Therefore, the unresolved emotional needs get stored, and then the ego, who's the protector, comes in and takes a seat at our soul, basically, takes over. So I learned this when I had my psychosomatic injury, when the disc slid up and under the disc above it on my neck, and learned even more about it with the chronic pain and inflammation, because Dr. John Sarno says, hey, the emotional area of the brain is the same place that oxygen is regulated. So if there's emotional pain that's going to come to the surface to where you're going to actually have to deal with your feelings, the brain will cut off a little bit of oxygen to various parts of your body to cause physical pain, because physical pain is easier to deal with than the emotional pain. So when we're looking at this energetically thing where we're like, okay, I have this business, I have this 0 to 3 unconscious identity that's fear-based and not getting emotional needs met. When I feel a certain way, I am the one in charge to validate in the moment. And I am the one who is here to reflect and be a witness to what may have happened in that 0 to 3. Then what starts to happen is you being in the center, right? So you have your 0 to 3 on one side, you have your business on the other side. You are in the center. You are the neutral 0 point centeredness point of balance. Now you get to actually see where the unconscious energy from that 0 to 3-year-old is showing up in the business. When we see where it shows up in the business, we can give meaning to the self-care. Because when we look at where we're insecurely attached, so check this out. If we're like, hey, I'm anxiously attached. When I feel insecure, when I'm dysregulated, when a client leaves, I don't lash out and make it mean there's something wrong with them. I make it mean there's something wrong with me. That would be the anxious perspective. What did I do wrong? How should I have done this differently? What can I do to make sure that nobody leaves again? So if we know that that's the feeling that we get into when a client leaves, we can look at it as an umbrella that says, when things don't go my way, I tend to get anxious. And I look for guarantees to not feel this way. So now when I'm looking at my diet, whatever strategy I'm doing, if I'm doing paleo, keto, carnivore, macro tracking, if I'm doing a detox, I am most likely the type of person who's going to anxiously attach to the tool, hoping to have a guarantee that I'm going to have my dream body by the time the tool is done being used, 30 days, 4 months, whatever. So now that we can actually see, okay, this is an anxious attachment style. This is looking for a guarantee. Then we can start to really break things down to look at food and do away with the strategies. If we're if we're an anxious attached person, or if we have anxious attachment styles in our behaviors, we have to stop dieting. Yeah, it's the hardest thing. You have to let the wheels fall off, because by sticking to a strict diet with an anxious attachment behavior style, when we get dysregulated and triggered, do you stick with the diet? No, you don't. So you're not going to get anywhere. It's going to be this like constant cycle. So when we understand that we get an anxious, I need a guarantee that I need to act a certain way and be a certain way so people won't leave. And we look at how we're showing up with our exercise and our dieting, you have to stop dieting. Because the only way to fix the business or release this attachment to your business and create the personal power, intuition, gut instinct that you had that built your business in the first place, but now all the doubt is creeping in because somebody left, the only way you're going to stop doing that is if you focus that energy, that insecure attachment style into the food, notice where you're doing it with the food, and then change how you're doing it with the food. So when you stop dieting, that allows you to feel the emotions that you do not allow yourself to feel because you have judged them as being the reason why people leave. Because it's just energy. It's just emotion. It changes the context. It goes wherever you're focused. Wherever your focus goes, energy flows. So if you're focused on the business and not feeling good about yourself, you're going to feel anxious. If you're looking at the food and you're looking to feel good about yourself, you're going to pick out the latest diet fad, swear up and down that you're going to stick to it with a T until you PMS or something happens that emotionally dysregulates you and you end up needing food to comfort eat. The avoidant has to diet. If you have fuck off energy in your business when somebody leaves or things don't go your way, and you just want to throw in the towel, you don't really give a shit, that's the avoidant. So the avoidant actually needs some parameters because the avoidant takes on separation as your problem, not a me thing. So that gives them a reason or an excuse, a scapegoat to shirk responsibility of their own creative power of that 0 to 3. So the avoidant person actually needs something to hold them accountable because staying accountable to something when they have fuck off energy in their business and about other people makes them have to face their feelings. So when I realized this on the scope of the wheel of life, I was like so excited. And I was like, everybody's going to want to do this because we're going to be so matter of fact about energy. And I got a lot of criticism from the spiritual community. I got a lot of people being like, nobody cares about this. They just want to lose weight. So I've been going back and forth over and over again. Do I fit in with the spiritual community? Do I fit in with the fitness community? I don't know because I'm a spiritual person. I see connections of energy. I call things in all the time. I know when the angels speak to me through people. And I'm really fucking fit. Like a guy just told me today that I have the perfect figure. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. So it's like I can sell the sexy fitness thing because I've done the aesthetic transformation. I can do how do you recalibrate pain? How do you recalibrate information? How do you make yourself healthy with your thoughts, feelings, and your actions? And I can teach you how to manifest. So it's been challenging to figure out how I'm actually going to do the thing that I'm here to do. And so now in the last couple of weeks, what I realized is that if I'm really going to be totally honest and in my power, it's that I believe the earth plane is where we have a spiritual rite of passage. And I believe that our natal chart, our human design chart, our gene keys, all of these personality tests, everything, those are all our soul blueprints. Those are all systems for our human tangible brain to understand energy and consciousness that we can refer back to say, this is the energy that I have the potential to embody. This is the shadow side. This is the higher self side. Astrologically, these are the archetypes that I'm connected to. These are the soul themes that I came here to represent. So I feel like I'm there, and I wanted to share this with you. That if you embark on this journey with me, this is about being the change we wish to see in the world. This is about healing our body. This is about our soul being embodied in our physical vessel. And this is about transmuting, alchemizing, transforming, transfiguration, all of our pain. Because all of the human experiences that we have, especially the painful ones, they are all divinely orchestrated. And if you look at your chart, it makes sense that they happened. So when we start to look at the earth plane as this is a spiritual rite of passage, that means that we came here as a soul to incarnate in the human field where we're only 95 to 97% conscious, where we think that just what we can hear, see, smell, taste, and touch is what's real, that we forget who we are on the soul level so that we can make the hero's journey, so that we can graduate the levels of the video game, that we can ascend the human consciousness and return to source, and not just return to source, but bring source down here, because there has been so much lost of our power with the different collectives of consciousness, of world structures that have happened through the civilizations. And we're in a civilization shift right now. We are in a time of great change. Obviously, you know that. But the energy has been in alignment with the physical experiences. So the breakdown of the world structures, the questioning, the new ideas, the new ideologies, identity politics, it's all on course with what the planetary transits are having, what our galaxy and how it's moving around the galactic center, and how the great attractor is moving things within the multiverse. Like it goes on and on and on and on. It's not just this. So if you are someone who wants to make positive change, who wants to create a profitable business with huge financial overflow that will change the course of generations in your family, as well as generations in people that you might not be related to, but you have a burning heart desire to provide a solution for them in a way that they would never have access to that solution had it not been for your money to give it to them. If you're that person and that's why you created your business and you have health issues, or you need to learn how to take care of your body, or you want to learn how to manifest energy and take the earth experience as the spiritual rite of passage, or you're getting hung up on the clients, on the numbers, on the coaches, on the comparison, on the strategies, this is the place to be. We're in it. I'm here. I'm ready. We're doing this. So that is your podcast for today. I'm going to leave you with that. I do have an announcement. We have a $1 million Mind and Body Framework Masterclass on Thursday, September 26th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Go to bodyenergetics.com/MDMB, the initials for $1 million Mind Body. I'm going to teach you the framework of how to create the $1 million mindset through the body so that you can create the millions of lives impacted, the millions of dollars to change the generational wealth for your family and for the people that you really care about, that you want to create that change for. So I hope you come, sign up for it so that you can get the replay if you can't make it live. I'm really excited to share this with you because I want to go into detail about how you are going to do this. Okay, we'll see you later.